Hello and welcome to this three-part series on BMC application visibility with Docker containers. In part one of this series, we explained how application visibility works and how you can share that application visibility directory with containers within Docker as a shared volume or container. In this part, we'll take you through the process of creating a volume and a container for application visibility. First, we'll create our container that has the volume for the application visibility software, and then we'll make that a separate container. After that, then we'll create an application running in a container on Docker and apply our application visibility container to that. So let's now start by creating our volume container for BMC software. I'm using CentOS 7 as our example platform, and I've loaded Docker version 17 on top of that. First thing I'd like to do is download the application visibility software off the BMC software download center, also known as the EPD, off of the support.bmc.com site, and then I'll be loading the Java development kit off of the Oracle site. Put those into a single directory. Mine is called @viz_share. Then we'll be building a special build file for Docker called Dockerfile. To look at its contents, you'll see we'll first start off by using CentOS as our operating system in our container. Then we'll run a couple of installs so we can add special utilities like tar and VI. Then we'll be loading our Java development kit that we had. And finally, our application visibility. This Docker file will construct our image and add all of these elements to our image. Next, we're going to look at docker_run, which is just a script file that will execute the build. The thing interesting to notice is the application share that we're going to create and put into this container. Now we want to create our actual shared drive by using docker volume create, and it just creates a placeholder for our share drive. Now we're going to build using the Docker file that we made by saying docker build --rm true-t and then give it a name, @viz_share, and say build in this directory. This process takes several seconds to go through as it steps through each step of our Docker file. If you follow through each of the steps, you'll see what it's doing. When it's completed, it will give you the output build number, and then you can do Docker images to see that we've created our new @viz_share image. Next, we'll look at the docker run script file, which will run our new image. This starts off with a little bit of overhead to allow us to run. Then we call out the name of our share drive. Then we give the image a name and a host name. And then finally, we call out the image and tell it to run a bash shell. Now, when we run our Docker script, it will execute this and create our container. We can then go back and see what the container name is by doing a docker ps. We find that it has an ID and a name. So we can then execute a bash shell against that. So that allows us to effectively log on to the container and make changes to it. And that's exactly what we need to do to complete the application visibility installation. So first thing we want to do inside the container now is set an environment variable to allow us to find Java. So we'll export our Java home directory. Then we can find out effectively where we are in our directory structure. Do a pwd and we'll see we're in the install directory. Go up one directory from there because that's actually our shared directory. What we're going to do now is install application visibility into that shared drive called addops install. So we'll execute our addops agent installation script and follow through with the prompts. This will be a very basic installation. We can change these options later, but this is going to make a global installation for all of our container files. So we'll leave the name blank, and we'll put in the IP address of our application visibility server. Again, we can change this later if we need to. The portal will remain defaulted, and everything else can remain defaulted as well. Go ahead and enter yes, and you'll see that it unpacks the jar file into our addops install directory. So when we exit the installation, we can look at the addops install directory and lo and behold, sure, here are all of our files. Next, we want to make an instance directory. This is the active directory where the Docker containers will create their working and log file directories. then we'll want to change access to everybody, but it allows every Docker container to access the same instances directory. Now to verify that we actually have written to our shared drive, let's go back to our host machine and look at the Docker volumes directory. So we have, under the volumes directory, we have our appviz share that we created. Under there is an _data, which contains the information from our volume container. And sure enough, you'll see that the application visibility software is in there. Now we want to commit our container so that it's written to and available for us in the same form. So we'll use the commit command, give it an appviz share, and then a token. We'll call it the latest version. And we can now use that in our next step. So join us on our next video where we're going to create a Tomcat container to apply our application visibility to.